Hello and welcome into the KE Report. I'm your host, Shad Markwitz, and today we're getting an update from Impact Silver, traded on the TSX.V under the ticker IPT, and on the OTC markets under the ticker ISVLF. And we're joined today with the president and CEO of Impact Silver, Fred Davidson. And Fred, it's great to get you on the show again to get an update. I think you know a lot of our audience does follow along with Impact Silver, and in full disclosure, I am a shareholder of the company. But I think what's exciting about Impact Silver is the dual-pronged approach you have as a producer, but also with a lot of exploration upside. And for people listening in, Impact Silver's been around about 18 years. They have 3 mining projects in Mexico. The Zacualpan Silver-Gold District has 4 underground mines and 1 open pit mine, feeding the Guadalupe processing center. And then they made an acquisition, I think about a year or so ago, the Plomosas Zinc-Lead-Silver Mine. And this has turned out to be a nice cash cow for the company. Very high zinc and lead grades in there along with the silver. But you're pulling silver and gold from the Zacualpan district. I guess, Fred, when you look at the Q2 financials that you just put out, what are the key takeaways and the key metrics you want investors to know?
Yeah, it's Q2 is really a transformative quarter. And I know people always talk about that, but it truly is. One of the issues when we're mining at the Guadalupe mine, last year, for instance, we were mining primarily silver, but we had developed one of the mines, we're running in gold, and that was starting to contribute fairly attractively. There was metallurgical issues in terms of recovery, and what we did, we shut that down temporarily and did a lot of met work. And that one is now being opened up again, and we're going to start to see gold adding to pretty good grades of silver that we've got. And additionally, one of the areas we're working in silver was a brand new discovery called Kenna, and those are running some exceptional grades. So, the Zacualpan operation is transitional, and that is we're going to be bringing in gold production. We're going to be sort of gradually raising the grade of silver. And the other thing we incurred in the second quarter, which we wanted to sort of flush out, was we had a retroactive adjustment with the union and agreement and bonuses, etc. And that all hit the second quarter. So the second quarter is really not indicative of where we're going to be as we go forward. But we've done the things there that are necessary to make going forward look pretty attractive. On the other side, we've got Plomosa, and Plomosa is a zinc, lead, silver mine, and the grades are running actually exceptionally good. A case in point, the average grade for year to date has been 14% zinc, 8.7% lead, and silver is running over about an ounce and a half. So it's probably one of the highest grade zinc mines around. And as we expand production there, and when we took this mine over, it was a real mess. We've been doing a considerable amount of cleanup on the actual operation, rebuilding the mill, et cetera. Most of that has been done now. And the end result is, while we only processed 3,500 tons of ore in the first quarter, we've produced over 9,200 tons in the second quarter. And the third quarter is going to be another uptick in terms of production. So very transitional period. Most of the CapEx has been spent now there. Most of the work has been done on the exploration down in Zacualpan. We did a financing as well. We raised about 8.6 million in order to push these things forward and faster. And as you commented before, we are a producer, yes, but we don't acquire properties that are only pure production. We acquire properties that have production, but have a extremely attractive potential for growth and discovery. And we also have our own drills. So the end result is we're pumping away at an incredible amount of meters. Basically, year to date, we've done over 20,000 meters in our drilling, and we'll probably do about the same for the balance of the year. Very aggressive year. We're seeing increases in production. We're getting our people more structured and organized in the Plomosa, which is this new acquisition. So yeah, it's been a very exciting quarter for us. The fact is, revenues are obviously up substantially. We did 7.7 million. Last year we did 5.5 million. We did sustain a mine what we call operating loss, And that was primarily due to the amortization depreciation. And of course, the fact that under the accounting rules for Plomosa, as soon as we did any production at all, most of the operating costs of building Plomosa has to be written off. So we're getting all that flushed out. And going forward, we're going to see less of that coming through, impacting on the bottom line. Really exciting period of time.
Yeah, sure is, Fred. There's a lot going on with the company. We'll dive into a couple of these different components, but let's just stick with Plomosa for now. As far as investors that were invested in Impact Silver a couple of years ago, what they really liked was that you had the pure silver exposure for the most part. But now you've branched out into more gold from Zacualpan and more zinc and lead in Plomosa. And some people I noticed online, Fred, were saying, oh, I don't want to see them get into base metals. But to the point you just made, this was a different quarter, the second quarter, because you had to write down some of the cost of getting it up and running. But as you see Plomosa moving forward, maybe just talk to people about why you're still a big fan of silver, but you're not upset about 14% zinc grades coming out of this mine.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. First of all, there is a significant silver component, and based on just the averages alone, it'll add another 100,000 ounces of silver production to our account. But as well, what we're looking at with the zinc is it's an exceptionally high grade zinc deposit, and it's probably in the top quartile in the world. But it's more than that. It's wide open for almost 8 kilometers. And the end result is this is what they call a CRD. It's in an area that's probably got some of the biggest CRD mines in the world. So perspective, very attractive. As you go north on this deposit, we actually run into outcrops of copper gold. So it's highly mineralized. What it's going to end up at the end of the day, I don't know, but I'll never turn down 14% zinc anytime, especially when I get the silver basically for free. And that was a very attractive. The exploration is very, very attractive. As I say, the structure is very substantial, and there's anomalous metals almost the whole length of this structure. So yeah, we've got a lot of work there. It's an exciting work for discovery, and it's also one of these as we increase the throughput is going to be putting dollars on the bottom line, and that will help me fund further exploration both here and at Zacualpan.
Well, let's talk about Zacualpan too, because what's really interesting, I've been watching your operations team for years manage it it's kind of like a series of spinning plates sometimes where you're turning one mine on, turning one mine off, picking more grade from this area, maybe waiting on this one for better prices. You have the ability to turn on and turn off production strategically based on how the metals prices are. So maybe just speak to, the savvy of your operation team at Zacualpan with those different mines we discussed there, making them all work in symphony together.
Yeah, and that's very much what we do. As you know, you can have a high grade mine, but the cost might be exceptionally high too. So what we try and do is reflect what the market needs in terms of pricing and operating costs. And yeah, we have turned them on and off. The gold mine, for instance, Alacran, we turned off because recoveries were poor and we hated to waste gold when our recoveries are sort of below the 40% and less. We're now turning it back on because the met work we've done and the current price of gold, needless to say, makes it very attractive to start producing from that again. We've run into a couple of mines that had exceptionally high grade, but the ground was poor. Our operating costs there were high. And those are ones we sort of put on the side and say, okay, silver gets up to this price, we'll bring that one back on as well. Then we have to be pragmatic because there's two sides to what we do. One is the mining side, and the mining side, your job is to produce positive cash flow. The other side is the exploration. And part of what we do with the mining is we fund the exploration, and the exploration sustains the mines, but is also looking for the big ones. And that's a model that's worked pretty effectively for us, and we've managed to continue now. It's 18 years we've been operating this thing. And the production for silver goes up and down depending on the price of silver and which mine we're working on. And at the same time, there's still a lot of potential for exploration. In fact, over the whole district, not all of it's owned by us at this point in time, but A lot of it's just vacant. There's over 5,000 old mines, and that's historically has gone back to the days of Cortez. The other side of it is we are finding underlying this silver lead zinc district that we've been mining, there appears to be a copper gold district underlying it, and it's deeper, obviously. The silver lead zinc goes down to about 300 meters. There's sort of a barren area, and then we seem to be getting a district that you could call copper gold. And it outcrops in certain areas, it doesn't in others. And one of the areas that's very interesting is there's a deep valley adjacent to our mill, about a couple of kilometer or two away, and it's about 300 meters deep. And it's called Vea de Oro, Valley of Gold. We didn't name it, but it's been mined historically from the Aztecs, believe it or not, as well as the Spanish. And it's indicative of this underlying gold copper district. And that one is still to be explored by us. We've seen some outcrops, but it's over 300 meters deep in certain areas. So it's got to wait until we're comfortable with the cash flow and our operations. And quite frankly, we're drilling 20,000 meters between the two mines every 6 months. So we got a lot of targets to drill even before we get to that one. Very exciting area.
Well, let's get into some of this exploration because 20,000 meters already, another 20,000 meters planned. If you're doing roughly ballpark 40,000 meters a year, that's a lot of drilling. That's actually a lot more drilling than most exploration companies do, Fred. So what I like about Impact Silver, and I think what a lot of other people like about it, is that you have the leverage to the silver prices because your margins expand so much, but you also are at the stage of a company where meaningful drill results can really move the needle for you as well. What are some of the key targets that you have been drilling with the 20,000 meters you've already done, and what are some of the targets you're looking to get to?
Okay, in Zacualpan, the current targets is there's a major structure running northwest southeast, very near where the current mine is, and it's composed of multiple veins. The Guadalupe mine itself is one of the most historic mines in the district. It was first mined in, I think it was 1529. So it's got a lot of mileage under there. Multiple veins, some of it was mined historically. And again, when they were mining, the criteria was a lot different than our mining today. But these structures are running northwest, southeast, and we're now drilling to the southeast. There's a very substantial hill in between, probably about 3 or 4 kilometers away from where we're currently mining at the Guadalupe mine. We're now drilling 3 targets there that look like they could be the extension of the very veins that we're mining at the Guadalupe mine. And these are epithermal veins. So traditionally, an epithermal vein will make ore maybe 1/3 of the time. So it's earlier stage exploration. Structurally, there's a reason to be there. And what we're looking at is, does this structure, does the Guadalupe mine extend another couple of kilometers? That would be huge. And we're going to the northwest as well on the same structure. So we're looking at extending this thing. These veins can go anywhere from only a meter, meter and a half width to, I remember one we were working in was 22 meters. And that produces a lot of ore, let me tell you. So it's exciting in its own right. To the south, we're looking more for lower grade, but sort of massive structures. And in fact, if you get down to what we call the Capiri area district, it's a VMS, volcanogenic mesosulfide. And it's one of those that tonnage, Capiri itself doesn't have a huge tonnage, but it's an attractive location. But there's infinite number of targets in between Capiri and where we're mining right now. So it's one of those things that you have to balance your costs, your personnel, your equipment. But yeah, there's a lot of targets we're drilling and have drilled, and we're very positive on the general district.
When do you think you would get to the Valley of Gold as far as drill targets? What kind of a silver price would you need to see, or do you think it just involves maybe a couple more quarters of showing that everything's up and running at Plomosa and that you get the gold coming back in from Alacran? what's needed to be able to do some drilling there at the Valley of Gold?
Yeah, that one's we're gonna probably do some more geotechnical work there as well. Part of it, there's a teaser in the center of the valley of a very large mag high. And we need a lot more work on that. And that's going to sort of qualify where we would drill for that particular target. And as we go west, we're getting into areas where these veins look like they're coming to surface. It's we probably won't get to the gold copper district for other than one mine. I'll mention that in a minute. Until we get probably another year at least. Now, the one we're mining from is called, the other one we're just restarting again, the gold one's called Alacran. And Alacran was a traditional mine. There's reports that we've got from the 1920s where they were looking at it and sort of saying they thought it was high grade silver. In fact, they were exporting silver that was running kilos and direct shipment to the smelter as opposed to trying to actually treat it. They dismissed the wall rock because it was only 500 grams silver. We're back into that, and one of the comments they made, and what was very interesting, was in some of the areas there was gold there, and it occurred when you got the kilos of silver, they weren't mining the gold, and we're probably getting in the area of 3 to 4 grams gold in this underground. Good mining location. The gold had some issues in terms of metallurgical recoveries. We've solved those. So it's going ahead. And then as we go west on the property, this is hard to sort of, I've got my arms waving as I'm talking here. As you go west on the property, where the gold copper district appears to be coming nearer surface, we traditionally found one that was called Carlos Pacheco. And Carlos Pacheco was sort of short-necked. You got into silver, lead, zinc, very short, and then we got into copper gold, and one of the drill holes was 18 grams gold. So that's an area we want to get back into. Again, it had its own metallurgical issues, and now with the tonnage coming out of Alacran, we can afford to spend the time on the metallurgical issues at Carlos Pacheco. So it's discovery. Is it mineable? Is it treatable? And right now yes, it's mineable. The question is it treatable? We're resolving that. We've resolved it for Alacran. We'll resolve it for Carlos Pacheco. And it will probably be the lead in to doing more of the gold copper in that district. So yeah, very busy.
Well, it sounds like it, Fred. And I guess investors have to be okay with the fact that you're going to have a lot of silver, but also gold, but also potentially copper, not to mention really high grade zinc and lead. So you're really becoming more of a polymetallic producer, but still the focus is silver. Maybe just wrap us up with the bigger vision of the company, where you see things developing, especially if we see higher metals prices and all those commodities, whether it's gold, look at record highs right now. Copper's had a big rip earlier in the year, pulled back some now, but if copper and zinc and lead and silver and gold keep ripping higher, how do you want people to think of the future of Impact Silver?
Well, I think what we're trying to demonstrate is sort of a unique commodity. I mean, there's lots of people that wave about their early stage exploration. They got a single drill hole. We're not going into areas where there's only a single drill hole and sort of a cheap promotion on a single drill hole. What we are doing is we're saying, okay, let's build these centers, if you will, in Zacualpan and Plomosa, where we can do production and generate cash flow, but at the same time be able to run a exploration program in a highly prolific district. And that provides the opportunity, and we've said it with some people before about Plomosa, for instance. Okay, it's a 75% chance it's going to be a small, high-grade zinc mine. There's a 20% chance it's going to be a medium-sized, high-grade zinc mine. There's a 5% chance that somebody will take us out because we're going to prove what the metallurgy, what the structure is that hasn't been done in the past. So what we're offering to ourselves, if you will, because we're all involved in this, is, yeah, we're in the business of running mines, but we're also in the business of looking for the big ones. And I think it's the old story, you find elephants where there's elephants. And the reason we'd be mining there is, and I think I mentioned it earlier to you when we were talking, is that the Plomosa mine, and again, the Plomosa mine is only about 1/10 of this whole structure, was mined by a major who had over 1,000 people working there. And we've gone back in and we're mining what they didn't mine, and it's very high grade. They obviously hit the bad time in the price of silver, lead, and zinc. And yeah, we think there's a lot more here. And as I say, as you go north on the property, we're getting into things like copper, gold up there. So it's what we're there for is the metals. And the metals generally tend to be precious. But you know, you look at zinc, for instance, zinc oxide batteries are now becoming extremely important. You put up a wind farm, you're going to use a couple of tons of zinc on every windmill you put up. So it's one of those that has a new reason for being. It also comes with the fact that if we can make money on the zinc, then the silver, let's say between 50 and 100,000 ounces a year, even for the future and more, that's free. Our cost of production of silver will be zero. So it's attractive in that respect. So yeah, what are we? We're small, medium-sized producers with huge potential in terms of exploration.
Well, very well said, Fred. We'll wrap it up there for today, but very nice to get the update overall on all the different projects you're working on with Impact Silver. And if people listening into this interview would like to follow along with the news flow from Impact Silver, definitely click on the link below this interview. It takes you right over to the company website, straight to the news section, so you too can follow along with the news as it hits the wires. And Fred, keep us posted. We'll get you back on for another update, and looking forward to our next conversation.
Good talking to you.